Hi, so I'm Richard West and I'm here with the Photographer Academy today to look at colour management. We're going to look at screen calibration, how to get the screen colours correct and true, and an international standard basically that anybody else can see the same colours if they're on a calibrated screen as well. We're going to do this by looking at the Datacolor Spyder. We've got the Spyder 5 now. We're going to look at the software that comes with it, the Spyder 5 Elite software in this case, and look at the way in which the device works. So the device itself is a small portable USB-based device. I've got it already plugged in here into my computer. The Spyder 5 comes with a built-in lens cap, so it's been designed now to be very portable to use, for instance, on laptops and in a mobile environment, so much more robust. In fact, one of the things about the Spyder 5 is the redesign to make sure that the optics that are inside here that are going to do the reading of the colours are actually encapsulated and suspended basically in a protected environment such that it's a lot more robust and solid. So you can throw this in your bag and move it around, and it's a lot more versatile from that point of view rather than perhaps previous iterations which have been a little bit susceptible to the bangs and crashes and needed you to take more care of them. The Spyder itself comes with a lens cap to protect the lens sensor. That's the sensor in there, and the lens cap itself can be used as a counterbalance when they're actually working on the displays, so it'll hang at the right height, but we'll show you that in a few seconds. The device has been engineered for work with 4K, 5K and curved screens as well, so it's now got a curved nature to its build basically. And also the Spyder 5 has a tripod mount such that it can be tripod mounted or lighting mount mounted if you're doing bigger screens or you're doing things like projectors and calibration of projectors. So you can then pop it in there and calibrate pretty much any device out there now. So that's giving it pretty much a ubiquitous ability to work with any device on the marketplace. We'll come to some more of the advantages of the Spyder 5 in a few seconds in the environment of portable calibration. But we're going to look at the software. I've already booted it up here. We've just run up the Spyder 5 software. It immediately comes up with a splash screen, which gives us the opportunity to just check certain parameters, check things that are how we've set things up, basically, what our setup is like. First thing is to check, is the screen that you're calibrating warmed up? Also, the lighting conditions. It's far better to be working in a controlled lighting condition, perhaps something more controlled than the studio we're in today, in fact, where it would be good if we could have blinds across the windows in case there's changes in lighting during the day, basically. But we'll continue on here anyway with this calibration. And of course, the key thing here is if you do move into different lighting conditions, recalibrate, because it will have an effect on the way you're perceiving things and the way that your eyes are perceiving things, even if it isn't affecting the way that the screens are displaying. Also, as far as the checklist of things is concerned, in the first splash screen, it takes us into the joys of checking those display controls. Now, we'll be setting brightness as part of the software function. But basically, we're kicking off here by just trying to get you into that situation where what you're looking at, you're comfortable with on your eyes. So do that first, because of course, if you want to change things like brightness and contrast afterwards, then it's too late, because once you've run the calibration, that's it, it's calibrated. Key thing, last step, plug the Spyder in. So we've already got it in there. We're just going to follow the guides now. By the way, there's a new area of software which has been brought in with the software in the Spyder 5, which is giving you little hints and tips. And it's an interactive help window that basically brings in little guides as to what any of these different controls and steps along the way are there for. So hopefully that's going to give you more guidance and make it easier to calibrate. Next screen we click into, just following the next buttons, and gives us the opportunity to choose either to work on a step-by-step assistant, i.e. a type of wizard, which we're going to use today. Could go into the expert console, but we're trying to make this as approachable as possible and show you just how good the assistant is for you. We also have a studio matching environment with the Elite. This gives us the opportunity to force multiple displays to match. Key example there is if you're working in perhaps more of a design studio environment, where you've got multiple designers working on the same magazine or publication, then if you want to make sure that they are looking at exactly the same calibration, you can force those displays to match, to adopt the same profile. So today we're only going to be calibrating our laptop, so off we pop, drop into the next screen. I'm going to be doing a recal. Full cal just takes a little bit longer basically, but the actual calibration here gives you some parameters you can change, things like gamma and white point. We're going to leave at the recommended values. We've just put the brightness today at a target value of 120 just because of the brightness of the room. Now if you want to find out more about how to set those settings up, we won't cover that off in this particular recording because it could go on for quite some time, but we do have online guides that you can check out and an ebook that you can download if you want to find more information about that. I'm going to leave the rest of those settings as we've got them there. I'm going to click on the next button, and really we're now getting to the last most important stage, I suppose, telling you where to put your Spyder on screen. And as mentioned, we've got the counterbalance here on the back of the Spyder in the form of the lens cap. We've already in fact popped up to the right sort of length on the USB cable. We're just going to pop the Spyder on screen there such that it's within that bounding box, the marquee box there. And at that point we're just going to click on next, and it's going to start doing the calibration. Now, we've now got the entire screen being used as the color swatches, because effectively what's going to happen is that the software that's running in the background here, that runs Mac or PC, I just happen to be using it on a Mac here, is putting a range of different color swatches and gray swatches in front of the sensor on the device. And the sensor on the device is actually reading those colors. It knows what those colors should be, it has lookup tables there, and it's going to come up with an adjustment. At the end of that process, it's going to say to us, okay, we can now correct your screen. If you want to do that, hit the save button, and that will immediately correct the screen into a color calibrated environment, the same International Color Consortium calibrated environment, i.e. ICC profiled environment, that any other calibrated screen or device will work within. Now at this point, you can see within the software, it's actually come up with telling us that the brightness on this particular screen at the moment is set too high. We've got a target we've set of 120, which is, we're trying to emulate paper white basically. And we're going to just drop down the brightness on the screen so that we actually get that down to probably a more appropriate level. It might take a couple of goes to get it right, but the key thing here is to try and get that level of white correct. So we just update to see, hit the update button basically to see where dropping that brightness down has put that white level. A little bit too high still, so we just drop that down one more, update. And it's within tolerances as near as we're going to get there, so that's fine. At this point, I'm just going to sit back and let it continue to run the rest of the color swatches there, and the Spyder 5 will then read those color swatches. Key things about the Spyder 5, the device comes in 3 parameters. We're looking at the Elite here. It also has a slightly lower version, which is the Pro, and an entry-level version, which is the Express. The Pro and the Elite both have ambient sensors already turned on and activated. That's the little white dot on the back there. It's an ambient light sensor. And effectively, all the devices are built around the same chassis nowadays, and it's just a software and firmware update in order to get those up to the next level. So we've really got an upgradable path there. If you do go for not the top-end device straight away, if you start off at a lower end, then not available necessarily at all times, but we'll have upgrades available for people wanting to go from one level to another at points in time. So we'll let that run now and come back to you in a sec. So there we are. It's now run the calibration. Basically, we've got to the point where we just hit the finish button. It'll take us into that window where it tells us, okay, first of all, we can set how frequently we want it to remind us, the software to remind us to come back and recalibrate. Now, for any professional photographer, videographer, designer, we'd recommend at least weekly. But as mentioned, if you're changing your lighting conditions that you're actually working in, recalibrate. For any hobbyists, probably between every 2 weeks and 4 weeks. I'm going to leave it on 6 months because I calibrate a lot. At this point, when we hit the Save button now, it will actually, as mentioned, correct that screen. It will also create the profile, and the profile is the description file, the fingerprint, if you like, that explains what colours the display can show. And that's an important thing, and we'll come to why in a few seconds, or a couple of steps. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a date or a particular name. So we're going to call it whatever it may be. Give it pop a date in there. As soon as we hit that Save button, we've now got a profile that will be created, and because we've dated it or given it a reference that's particular to this particular calibration, we'll be able to check when that calibration or how that calibration looks compared to other calibrations. And that way we can see what's changing over time. So as soon as I hit the Save button, calibration has been done. So now we've got a couple of different options, a couple of different screens basically. The process has been done now. We've calibrated our screen. It's now in this calibrated fashion, and as mentioned, if anybody else is working on an equivalently calibrated screen, an ICC profiled screen, or profiled device, then basically the colours should look the same within the gamut of the displays. So there is an important point there to pick up on in a couple of steps' time as well. So what we give you now is a range of different test screens or test images that you can use to see for yourself the difference that changes between the before and after. So we've split the screen into 4 separate quadrants there. We've got some standard colour swatches in the top left-hand side, some portraiture style shots in the top right-hand side, some landscape shots bottom left-hand side, and some black and whites as well, because black and whites can be affected by colour calibration as well. It's not just colour. So it's a range of greys and tonal values as well that you're picking up on. You can then drill down into these by clicking on a particular quadrant and choosing a particular image, and then just clicking again, it'll take you through back to the starting set of all the images. With the Elite and the Pro versions of the Spyder, you also got a full screen option. So this takes the image into full screen, and then we can just hit the space bar to toggle between the previous, i.e. the calibrated and the uncalibrated. So, and it'll tell you as well. So there's an uncalibrated view, and there's a calibrated view. Obviously, we're seeing a big impact on the reds there as far as that colour image is concerned. But if we have a look at some of the other swatches there, let's have a look at some of the landscapes, and again go into full screen mode so you can get that full impact of swapping between calibrated and uncalibrated. So there's uncalibrated. You see we're losing the warmth of the sunset there, and the building, the masonry on the building in the top right there is obviously a lot warmer in the calibrated view. So the key thing here is the images you're getting to look at, you're seeing the differences. When they're in the calibrated view, you're instantly seeing the difference that anybody else who's looking at these images, if you're outputting them on another calibrated display, will see. So if you're exporting to, for instance, the internet, and you're using sRGB, which is the recommended color space to use for going out to the internet, then basically, if I export those, if I've seen them, if I've been working, for instance, in Photoshop or Lightroom in sRGB as my color space, I'm looking at them on a display here. This display I know shows sRGB, so therefore I can see all the colors. So if that's calibrated there, they will appear on an equivalent calibrated display, the same color space, so another laptop, for instance, in a similar make, you'll see them exactly the same. So, key thing is, if you're actually working on an uncalibrated display and thinking, oh crikey, I need to maybe warm up my sunset there, or that masonry is looking a bit too brown, I know it was more terracotta, let's make it redder, for instance. Actually, if you start going in and retouching and increasing the saturation, the colors, the red in these particular images, when you come to output them, because they would have been looking like that if you'd done nothing with them, they'll look really oversaturated. So one of the other differences between the Elite and the Pro and the Express, so the Express being the entry-level version, so the Express doesn't have that full screen option. The Elite now comes with the opportunity to use standard sets of test images to see this, but you can also choose custom images. So if you, for instance, I tend to do a lot of wildlife photography, so if I wanted to take some of my shots and see how they're impacting how the colours are being affected there, basically I can again go into full screen mode with the Elite software, and I can again see the before and after in that calibrated environment. Now here we can see We know that the change in the calibration here was more in the red, so we're not seeing a great difference between the calibrated and uncalibrated views. But perhaps if I take some of my shots of more safari-style images, that will give us more of an indication of the change in calibration. So let's pop out of there. We're going to go on to the last stage in the scenario here. Important to say that we have got the environment here to tune our displays as well, to also basically push them to match other displays manually with Spyder tune. But what we're going to go into now is the final stage, which just shows you what we were briefly talking about before. So this is actually a representation of the color space, or the profiles that we're looking at. So in this final screen, we've got the opportunity to see different types of calibration of this or other screens that we've calibrated using the device, because you can plug the device into other machines and away you go, calibrating there as long as you downloaded the software. Nowadays it doesn't come with discs in a box, but basically you can download the software, Mac or PC, onto any machines that you own and then calibrate those as well. But basically we can now compare the calibration I've just done with, for instance, other calibrations. So the red triangle on the little area on screen there within the graph area is the retina display. I'm going to now choose a different display to compare it with, so I'll choose the same display but one from perhaps a couple of weeks ago. So I can see how things are changing there, if there are any changes. Now you can see actually now this is good, no changes in my displays. Previously, I've certainly had experience of displays going off, losing a percentage of their color gamut over time. And that's why it's really good to be checking your displays and checking this gamut of what colors you can display on a regular basis. I found one of my previous displays lost a percentage of color per month over 6 months. So I lost 6% basically by the point that I decided to take the display back and say, thank you, I'll have a new one, please. And it's great from that point of view because obviously you've got instantly a means of proving what's going on with those displays. You can also compare here. We're looking at these displays and it's telling us both the display now and the display in the past is showing us 99% of sRGB. We can actually compare that to Adobe RGB as well, so we can actually see what Adobe RGB is like in this environment. And you can see that basically Adobe RGB is about 25% bigger than sRGB, and hence we're only getting to see 76% of Adobe RGB. And this is important because right back to where we were talking about retouching, it tells us what color space we should be retouching in. Perfectly fine to shoot or capture images in Adobe RGB, for instance, but when you retouch on this display, it can only see sRGB, or 99% of it, so you should only be retouching in sRGB because you can't see 25% of the color. Mainly in this case, it'll be the light greens, but basically that'll be the bit that if you're doing landscape photography and you're wanting to adjust the high end, the lighter parts of leaves and trees and so on, you're not going to be able to see what you're actually adjusting. So, important step within color management is to learn what your displays that you're working on can actually show. If I have a look at perhaps another display, so I've got an ISO at home, for instance. So if I have a look at that display, you'll see there that the blue triangle is the ISO display. And it's pretty much mimicking that purple triangle of the Adobe RGB space. And straight away it's telling us that it's got 95% of Adobe RGB. So really I'd be fine to be working in Adobe RGB in that instance. But certainly on this display, sRGB. So it kind of tells you why you perhaps spend more money on better displays as well. That's it now. You can basically print out info or save reports from with more details from your calibration here. But key thing really is this process of getting those screens calibrated, learning about what your displays can calibrate. Just back on the hardware basically. So the Spyder 5 picks up on some of the innovation we had with the Spyder 4 before it, where we introduced this honeycomb mesh across the sensor array. So on the Spyder 4, it meant that the Spyder 4 was unique in being recommended for working with displays like iMac displays, where there's a large glass front to the display. because you get a lot of light bouncing around inside that. So this honeycomb effect on what was previously on the Spyder 4 focuses the light to make that much more accurate. Well, here we've actually taken what we've learned from the Spyder 4 with the Spyder 5 and made that honeycomb finer and thicker as well to focus that light more accurately. What it means is that, and it's the same on all the devices, the Express, the Elite and the Pro, it means that we're actually getting more accurate readings. Now on higher end displays, things like ISOs, it's not actually so obvious, but on lower end displays, on older displays and things where we are getting not as accurate color coming out of the display, we're getting up to 55% improvement in color management. It's bringing new life back into older displays as well. So Spyder 5 really making the most of that redesign to make sure you've got a very accurate device for color calibration. So there we are. We've calibrated the display today. So we've got to that situation where we're absolutely able to see what we're getting on screen correctly, color-wise. And as mentioned, we've got the 3 different models of the Spyder there. We've got the Express at the entry level, we've got the Pro, which is more aimed at professional photographers, and the Elite at the high end if you want to be doing things like actually checking for hotspots in your display and also checking to make sure that multiple displays of the same variety are absolutely matching, so forcing that comparison. And you get those other benefits we were looking at earlier on, things like being able to change the test images in your software and also go into full screen mode in both the Pro and the Elite. So hopefully that's given you a good understanding of color management on screens. That's it for today, and we'll say thank you to the Photographer Academy for having us here today.